Earlier this week, the 5 pigs on our small holding were sent off for slaughter. So we've got all the pork back, and we specifically asked for all the offal as well. So we have had 5 of these. And what we're going to do is make brawn. Now, in America, I think that's called head cheese, but here in England it's an old traditional recipe, and the final product is called brawn. And the whole point of it is, it's meant to ensure that every single bit of the pig gets used, so no waste whatsoever. Before modern times, people were much more careful with their food. They couldn't afford to waste any bit of it. So what we're going to do now is show you how to make brawn in the traditional way. Well, the first job we have to do is to chop the head up, at least into halves, if not into quarters, to make it easier to get into the pan. So there it is, sliced down the middle. When we've had pig heads back in the past, they've always been chopped in half for us by the butcher. This time they've all come whole, and my experience therefore of chopping pig's heads down the middle is limited, very limited. And I think we've decided, since we're going to be doing this a lot more often in the future, we're going to get a proper butcher's saw to do this, rather than using this thing, which worked but was slow progress. Right, the head pieces are now steeped in brine, and as you can see, these 2 bits here are the ears. I had to chop them off to get this to fit. But this will now stand overnight, and we'll deal with the next stage tomorrow. The pieces of the pig's head have been standing in the brine overnight, so we're now going to transfer them to a large catering pan. So into the pan we're going to add some fennel. These are just fennel stalks, rather woody, but they've still got a bit of life in them yet. Nothing else we can use them for, so we'll put them in the pan, and we're going to add in some celery. Now, I love my herbs, and we've got a good size herb garden on our small holding. So in this bunch here we've got thyme, sage and oregano, literally just picked fresh from the garden just a few minutes ago. That's going in as well. And we've also got onions and a few bay leaves, again picked fresh from our bay tree, so that's going in as well. And then we'll cover that lot with water. So there it is in the pan with water. Put it on and apply heat. What you're going to do is bring this up to the boil. When the pigs arrived back from the abattoir last week, we had to create a lot of freezer space for them. So that meant taking things out and using it, including this. Now, within the sort of group of friends that I work with who do sort of gardening and allotmenteering and growing food and keeping livestock and so on, the things get swapped around quite a bit. So I put a word out to everyone last year when we had the last pigs that any fat on the pigs, if they're not going to use it themselves, then give it to me. So my friend Kevin, from his half pig, he gave us this fat, and I'm going to render this down now whilst the pig heads are being boiled up. So that's the fat in the pan, covered with water. I put the heat underneath it, and literally it is a case of boiling up the fat and then simmering the lard off it. So just put the lid on and leave that to come up to heat. So it's a job that we can do whilst the pan next to it is boiling up the pig head pieces. Right, it's now come up to the boil, so we've turned the heat down and we're going to leave this simmering for 3 hours. Quite useful timing actually, because a friend of ours, she has her 2 goats on our small holding at the moment, and she's coming to collect them this afternoon because she's been away on holiday. She actually managed to get to France without having to self-isolate because of the pandemic. So she's not back now, so she wants her goats back. So Sooty and Sweet are going back home this afternoon, so that means I can get up to the small loading, get that sorted and get back in time for dealing with this. The fat has been simmering for about an hour, and as you can see we've strained it, and we're going to put this fat back into the pan with more water on it, and just repeat the process, and we'll keep doing that until we've extracted every last bit of lard from the fat.
Oh, you want to grab our bag of gifts out of the car? So. Oh! Oh no, have they stolen the present?
Your holiday?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Very, very good. Well.
Here, guys.
Slammed up. Oh. Just close it slightly.
Oh, they look like they've had a lovely time.
Right, I reckon they've put on some
serious weight.
some pounds.
Right, pan was on the cooker for about 3 to 4 hours, and we've taken off the heat. As you can see, it's now night time, so it's had time to cool down a bit. What we're going to do is strip the meat off this these pieces of the pig head, and we've got 2 bowls. One for the sort of like the grotty bits, the skin, the lumps of fat and so on, and this one where we'll put the lean meat into it. One of the reasons why you boil up the pig heads is because the meat literally just drops off it. So much easier to do it cooked than it is raw. So the head is now stripped. This is the good quality lean meat that literally just fell off the bones. This is sort of the grotty stuff, the skin mainly, and that we're going to boil up tomorrow to try and get a bit more fat off it. And this is the lard that we got from the chunks of fat, this stuff here, which we're boiling up in the other pan. So as you can see, it's coming out loving a lovely creamy colour to it, but that is super quality lard. Well, it's now 10:30 in the evening, so I'm finishing for the day. I'll show you the stock in a minute that's left over, because we'll be using that again tomorrow. But we'll continue on with this tomorrow morning after I've been to the vet. One of our goats fractured a bone in her leg a few weeks ago, and she's been in a cast since then. So that comes off tomorrow. So that's 9:20 tomorrow morning. So after that, we'll be back here in the kitchen and we'll then get on with making the brawn. And this is the stock that the bones are boiled up in, and that will be used tomorrow as well. Right, so we're back in the kitchen after having taken Dolly the goat to the vets. So we're going to have a quick recap of where we are from last night. So remember I was making lard, or extracting lard from some of the pig fat. Well, there it is, absolutely gorgeous, creamy lard, beautiful taste to it as if you use it in cooking. This is the meat that we're going to use for the brawn, and you see around the bottom here, some of the gelatin in it has already set, so it's moved a step ahead of us, a bit quicker than we wanted it to. So this is the fatty bits and the lumps that I've tipped out into the pan, and we're going to heat this up. As you can see, it's turned into a big jelly, so that's what we actually want with our brawn. So we're going to heat this up to melt the gelatin and then strain that off and add that to the brawn. Right, so we've got the meat, which I've now chopped up. I'm going to add in a bit of parsley and a bit of black pepper ground up, and then juice of a lemon. Now obviously if you were doing this recipe during the Second World War, you wouldn't have lemons. You couldn't get them for love nor money. Lemons were sort of traditionally added from about the sort of late medieval period onwards, once we sort of England was managing to import them from abroad. But that wasn't what we got in the Second World War. So just give this a mix up, and then we're going to add it to some baking tins. Right, I've finished heating up the bits of fat and skin and so on, and added in a bit of the stock as well, and I'm straining it now because I want to get off this liquid, because that's got the gelatin in, and that will be poured at some point shortly into the baking tins, which I shall show you in just a moment. Right, so we chopped up the meat, we added pepper, lemon and parsley. You can add other things if you want to at that point. Just mixed it all up and then put it into baking trays like this. And next I'm going to pour in the stock. So this is the gelatin stock. As you can see, it's already starting to set. It's forming this skin on the surface. So what we're going to do is ladle this into the two baking tins with the brawn in it, and then we'll leave them to cool and set. Well, moment of truth time. The gelatin hopefully has set in there, so we're going to turn them out onto a plate. Oh, there it goes. Well, hey, look at that. So, here goes. That's not bad, given it's made from a pig's head. Now, if during World War II in Britain you were a member of a pig club, then you would have made sure that nothing whatsoever would have been wasted from the pig. So the head would have been used, the trotters, you would have used them to boil them up to get the gelatine off and make sure the last bit of meat came off them. The blood would have been used to make black pudding and so on, so absolutely nothing was wasted. And that's the same as you go further back in time as well. You know, so making brawn was a way of making sure nothing from our food, nothing that would be produced on the land was wasted. And I have to say that's unlike our world nowadays, where so much food is wasted. We've got a lot to learn from our ancestors.